Palestinians pulled survivors from the rubble caused by the latest Israeli airstrikes. Gaza authorities say the missiles struck buildings in a refugee camp, killing at least 23 people, including children. It's the deadliest single attack by Israel since the fighting began 7 days ago. Israel and Hamas have engaged fire in the most recent escalation of violence, now in its 7th day. The United Nations is meeting later today to discuss bringing the standoff to a peaceful conclusion. Well, for more on this story, we'd like to bring in two parents who have lost children to the ongoing violence. Robbie Damland lost her son David to a Palestinian sniper. Bassam Aramin lost a daughter, Abir, to an Israeli border police officer. Both are members of the Parents Circle, a group that brings together Israelis and Palestinians who have lost children to the conflict. Robbie joins me now from just outside of Tel Aviv, and Bassam joins me from Jericho in the West Bank. Thank you both for joining us. I want to say first, I am sorry for your loss.
Thank you. That's good.
Bassam, you're in the West Bank. Tell us what the last week has been like for you.
Unfortunately, the conflict didn't start last week on the last wave. It's more than 73 years this conflict is going on. And the result, after 25 years of negotiation, we tried to feed our kids that finally we have peace, we will live in peace. We see more blood, more victims, more confiscated lands, more settlers, more brutality, which feed this hatred more and more and more. It's unbelievable. Just in 6 days, more than 180 Palestinians and around 10 Israelis. The majority, mass majority, are civilians and kids. They are not fighters. They paid the highest price. We can see the journalists, the media, how many journalists have been killed. And in the end, after that, we will try to talk about peace. How come? So it's very sad, in fact. And this is what we are trying to do, what we are trying to say, that we have the right to exist. We will both exist. But can we share this land as one state or 2 states or 5 states? Otherwise, we will share the same land as 2 big graves to our kids, our families, and our people.
Robbie, you're in Jerusalem. What has the week been like for you?
Well, actually, I live in Jaffa, Tel Aviv, and it's been an extraordinary week with all these contradictory things happening. Last Friday, I was at a dinner in the West Bank given by our Palestinian partners. There were 70 Palestinians there. And very close by, it was burning in Jerusalem. But I think this whole situation has made me so sad, because it's not only what's happening in Gaza and in all the towns around it, it's also what's happening internally in Israel. And I have to say that, you know, I'm in Jaffa, and yes, there have been riots here, but I have a safe room. But think about the mother who lives in Gaza, who's got nowhere to run. Just think about how if she stays at home, perhaps she'll get bombed. If she runs away, she may be called a traitor. And think about the mother that lives on the border of Gaza in a town like Sderot, which is one of the small towns there. She has 15 seconds to get to the safety room, to get to the shelter. And maybe she has 3 kids and one is in a wheelchair. Who does she choose to get there? What possible good can come out of all of this killing? All it can create is more hatred, and the result will be the same. This is like a mirror image of 2014. We're back to square one, only with more sophisticated weapons. And yes, I sit in my room and I listen to the sirens and the bangs and the rockets flying over, hoping that nothing will hit my building. That's insane. And we have to change our whole attitude. We have to find a framework for a reconciliation process to be an integral part of any political future agreement. Otherwise, we're back to square one with a ceasefire at best. And so it's heartbreaking to be part of this whole situation. But in the parent circle, we will not give up. Tonight we have a vigil with our American friends, and we are starting our tent again. We had a tent in 2014, which was open for 70 days to talk to people, mainly a lot who did not agree with us. But the whole point in this work is to allow somebody to talk, even if you don't agree with them, and have some empathy.
Bassam, you lost your daughter. Tell us about her. Sorry, Bassam, I don't know if you heard me there, but can you tell us a bit about your daughter?
Sorry?
Sorry, can you tell us a bit about your daughter? Okay, I think we've got a few technical issues there. We will hope to reconnect. But Robbie, I'm going to ask you the same question. Tell me about your loss and how it's shaped your opinions.
You know, that's always the difficult part of this. I can talk about the work, and David was a student at Tel Aviv University, and he was studying for his master's in the philosophy of education. And he was part of the peace movement, and he signed the officer's letter to say that he would not serve in the occupied territories. But, you know, he has a dilemma that all kids face here. And he came to talk to me, and he said, what will happen if I don't go? He was teaching philosophy to kids who were going to be inducted to the army. Is that the right thing to do? And if I don't go, what will happen to my soldiers? He was the officer. But the most important part that he said was, if I do go, I will treat people with dignity, and so will all my soldiers. And then I met, after David was killed by a Palestinian sniper, and I want to say something now that Bassam always says, and I hope we'll get him back onto the program, but Bassam always says, one soldier killed my daughter, not the whole Israeli nation. And I say one Palestinian killed my son. And he didn't kill David because he was David. He killed David because David was in a uniform in the occupied territories. Don't imagine that this is easy for a person to say, I love this country, but I know that if we don't end the occupation, nothing will ever be solved here. And we have to understand and tell the truth, and we have to stop the violence, because this violence doesn't achieve anything. It just creates more and more hatred. I look at all these people rioting now, and who are they? They're kids. They're ages 16 to 20, something like that. So you might think too about the Palestinian kids. Perhaps they have no hope. And when you have no hope, you can never have any peace, because that is a big equation when it comes to making peace. And the kids of the settlers, who are entitled to do almost anything they want and do not face punishment. And so things have to change. Education has to change. We have to respect each other. We don't have to love each other. And by the way, I'm rather fond of Bassam, but that's not part of the equation. The equation is respect. The equation is reconciliation. The equation is to stop the killing.
We just have a moment or so left, but we do, I believe, have Bassam back. And so, Bassam, I'm going to ask you the same question. Finally, tell us about your daughter.
I said that my daughter was 10 years old only. She had no idea about the conflict. In the 16th of January 2007, an Israeli border police shot and killed her in front of her school from a distance of 15 to 20 meters in her head from the back. I wish in that time she will be the last victim between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Unfortunately, she's not the last victim. We will never have peace. We will never have security. We will never feel security as long as the Israeli occupation continue, even after 3,000 years. This is the source of violence, the source of terrorism, the source of brutality. If there is no occupation, we don't need to kill each other. We don't need to fight each other even. So we need to share this land, as I said, as one state or two states or 5 states. Our dream is to send our kids to their school and get them back safe only. This is our state. And for that, we ask the world to help us and not to postpone the U.S. General the UN General Security Council for 3 days to have more than 100 people have been killed, because no side will come to his knees.
I want to thank you both for your time. And once again, I'm very sorry for your loss. Thank you. Robbie Damlin and Bassam Aramin of the Parents Circle Families Forum.